We know the mind's capable of making mathematical calculations of which we're not consciously aware, because this happens when, for example, we aim something at a target or predict how something's going to bounce. But here's a question. Could the impressionistic images we sometimes see when daydreaming with closed eyes be presented to us in a form that includes geometric procedures that our subconscious has carried out, of which we're not consciously aware? At certain times in my life I've felt a pull towards particular geometric patterns, and in my teens I first started getting into and being drawn to, and in the mind's eye seeing subtle impressions of the kind of perspective diamond tunnel that you get by putting squares inside other squares on the diagonal, the pattern known as Plato's canted squares. But it always seemed to me that there ought to be these swirly spirals at the corners. So when I saw similar patterns from Central America, I was intrigued. It's thought that it might have become seen as a syncretic synthesis of the cross diamond shape that was popular, inspired by the patterns on rattlesnake hides, together with the Christian cross of post-colonial times. Then, from a completely different part of the world, there were the paired swirls of smoke in the outer circle of fire in Tibetan mandalas, while the squares within are formed from the same Plato's canted squares pattern. What interests me particularly is that there is a geometric version of this. When a square is divided in half, and then the diagonal of one of the half squares is used as a radius, the extension of the square to meet the circle creates a golden rectangle. Now, when you remove a square from one side of a golden rectangle, what you're left with is also a golden rectangle. So then you can remove a square from that too, and that again will leave a golden rectangle, and so on. And this is why the golden rectangle has an inherently spiral nature to it, as expressed by the golden spiral. And so the essentially rectilinear structure of the diamond tunnel is complemented by and graced with these more fluid, spiral, curving embellishments around the exterior. Of course, there are many different variations that you can produce based on the same geometric principles. Here's an example I've mocked up where the golden spiral takes its angular form, having the appearance of a Greek meander or key pattern, and used to create a circular pattern with a feel of the Greek style border. Note the overlapping circles producing a flower pattern in the middle. These are not the traditional Vesica Pisces, but a version based on golden rectangle geometry. The fact that impressions upon my inner eye preceded the rational understanding of this suggests to me that if we were to entertain the idea of a muse of geometry, then this might lead to a path forward where there is an enjoyable and entertaining interplay between the rational and intuitive functions of the mind. The art of geometry has often been personified as a female figure. It's not hard to imagine her in the role of a muse, inspiring the geometer through subtle impulses and impressions. She's always shown holding the tools of the trade, the square and compasses. And funnily enough, the image of those tools can be found lurking within the very pattern we've been working with. We first add these two lines, which forms what's known as the Egyptian triangle, because of the golden section relationship between the base and the hypotenuse. as present in the cross-section of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. And then the image of the square and compasses emerges from the pattern. But that's something of an aside. The real point here is that the Muse of Geometry can become our partner in an enjoyable adventure if we are willing to let our mind's eye read the morphic fields of the ideas that lie behind patterns that appeal.